So the book you're going to be hearing read aloud is called Ruby and the Booker Boys. And it's called Trivia Queen, 3rd Grade Supreme. So Ruby has a little bit of a problem. She's the youngest kid in her family. She has 3 older brothers. They all go to the same school. And the oldest brother, I think, is like maybe 7th to 9th grade, something like that. And Ruby really wants to be in a trivia contest that is happening at the school. Well, there's a problem. It is for grades 5 and up. So Ruby would have to just be like a cheerleader. But she knows she could beat the older kids at this trivia contest. Well, she comes to find that her older brothers also all want to be in the contest. So will Ruby get her chance to shine as a 3rd grader going up against 5th, 6th, and 7th graders, or maybe even older kids too? Well, we'll find out if you listen to this story this week. Ruby and the Booker Boys, Trivia Queen, 3rd Grade Supreme. This is written by Derek Barnes, who is a Newbery Honor and Coretta Scott King Honor author. Illustrated by Vanessa Brantley Newton. Chapter 1. Dodge This. It was down to me and only me. We were playing ball tag in gym class against Mr. Littlejohn's 3rd grade class. Ball tag is freeze tag and dodgeball put together. Kids from our classroom, Pluto 3, were on one side of the bright white line on the gym floor. Mr. Littlejohn's class was on the other. There were 2 boys on their side against me. The other kids from my class were frozen solid. Lenny Sermon and Mikey Tripp, the boys from the other class, passed the ball back and forth between them. Mikey yelled out, "Just stand still, Ruby. Let's get this over with." And then Lenny had to add his 3 cents. "You don't stand a chance, girl." He laughed. Even though my classmates were stuck like statues, they were all cheering me on. Lolo, who speaks quiet as a mouse, waved both of his arms in the air. "Come on, Ruby. You're our last hope," he said. Normally, Lolo talks so quietly I can't hear a thing he says. That's how he got named Lolo. But today, Lolo was calling out like a cheerleader. I've never heard him so loud. Maybe this was because our team had lost ball tag last week, the 2nd time in a row, all from Lolo's lousy playing. After that game, everybody in our class blamed Lolo for making Pluto 3 into such losers. I knew then that I had to win for Lolo and represent my class. All of a sudden, I shouted, "Pluto 3!" My classmates screamed along with me, "Pluto 3!" I was ready then. "Throw the ball," I said as I rubbed my palms together. My brother Roosevelt, who we call Ro, taught me how to stand when you're waiting for a ball to come flying at you. Feet spread wide, hands open and ready to catch the ball. So that's just what I did, just like Ro had showed me. Lenny passed the ball to Mikey. He stepped back and waited for our gym teacher, Coach Chuma, to blow his whistle. Everybody in the gym got quiet. Mikey rushed the bright white line like he was a wild rhino. I stood there and waited for the perfect moment. When the ball flew out of Mikey's hands, I could hear Lenny cheering like they had already won. I'd played dozens of dodgeball games with my 3 brothers, and the ball that Mikey threw at me seemed kind of weak. It almost looked like slow motion. I reached out and plucked the ball out of the air like it was a cherry. Mikey's jaw hit the floor. He couldn't believe it, but he was out. Lenny knew he was next. He stopped laughing and looked like a scared little chicken. He tried to turn and run for the wall, but I charged the white line this time. Lenny fell as he tried to escape and then got back on his feet. Before he could take 2 steps, I chucked the ball like I had a cannon for an arm. Lenny turned back and saw that ball zooming toward him. He hollered, "No!" But it was too late. The ball bounced off the heel of Lenny's sneaker and then boinked him on the back of the head. I didn't mean for the ball to hit Lenny that way. He hit the floor before he could reach the wall. Game over. Who else could have defeated those boys while wearing the cutest pink and gold skirt with brand new purple and orange mismatched sneakers? Ruby Marigold Booker, that's who. I couldn't help but sing. Ball tag champions, can't you see? Ruby Booker in the class from Pluto 3. I raised my hands like a champion. My frozen teammates came back to life. Teresa Petticoat, my best friend in the universe, cheered at the top of her lungs. Hooray! Hooray for Ruby! I'd won the game for my whole class. Lolo gave the highest high five ever. Winning was for Lolo and everyone in Pluto 3. That was good news. But right after ball tag ended, our gym teacher, Coach Tuma, had even better news. Great job, Ruby. Coach Tuma smiled at me. He gave me a high five. He had a very proper way of talking, though. Your classroom should be ever so grateful to you, he said. Coach Tuma was from an African country called Kenya. I liked his voice. Thank you, Coach Tuma, I said. You ran at those boys with so much power and speed, Coach Tuma said. He pointed at the painting on the wall of the gym. You see the African elephant in that beautiful painting, Ruby? You have the same grace. Teresa was right by my side. Yeah, she agreed. Ruby is all grace, she said. I tapped Coach Tuma on his arm. Coach, I don't mean to be rude, but that's not an African elephant. Coach Tuma looked up at the painting again. What do you mean? He crossed his arms. It's simple, Coach Tuma, I explained. That elephant has small ears, and his back has a little dent in it. That, Coach Tuma, is an Asian elephant. You sure about that? He asked. Coach Tuma was smiling. I could tell he knew I was right, but he just wanted to test me. Teresa said, She's positive, Coach Tuma. Trust me, Ruby knows what she's talking about. I bumped my hip to Teresa's. I do know, Coach. I just saw that elephant on one of the animal facts websites that Ma lets me go to. So, Ruby, you're an animal expert. Nope, I'm a trivia expert. When it comes to little facts, strange facts, and funny facts about any and everything, there's a good chance I know it. There's a great chance she knows it, Teresa said. Well, it's a good thing you know so much about animals, Coach Tuma said. My wife is here at school today. She is the head zookeeper at the Below Rock City Zoo. She'll be bringing a surprise to every classroom. Who knows, maybe it's animals. Really? I love animals. I have a pet iguana named Lady Love, I said. But Teresa wasn't so happy. She's scared of anything that crawls, slithers, barks, or chirps, squeaks. I have to lock up my pet iguana when she comes to my house. I put my arm around Teresa. Will your wife be bringing iguanas? I asked Coach Tuma. She'll be bringing many interesting things, Ruby, including a big announcement, Coach Tuma said. But you'll just have to wait and see. What announcement? I wanted to know. Teresa backed away. Doesn't the announcement have anything to do with touching the animals? She'll be in your classroom next. Soon you'll know exactly what's coming, Coach Tuma said. I hate it when people keep secrets, but Coach Tuma wouldn't tell us anything else. He blew his whistle for the class to line up. I was still excited about winning at ball tag, but now my mind was stuck on the big announcement. What could it be? Chapter 2, Animal Expert. Sounds like we have a visitor. Our teacher, Miss Fukua, announced after hearing a tiny knock on our classroom door. Teresa jumped out of her seat like it was on fire. She ran under Miss Fukua's desk and peeked out at our teacher. Now, Miss Fukua, she said, those creepy, itchy, bitey, scratchy, slimy critters and I just don't get along. Teresa looked as scared as ever. You can stay right where you are, Teresa. I don't mind, Miss Fukua said. A second knock came from the door, and in walked a lady wearing a cute tan outfit. Behind her was a tall man pulling 2 covered cages behind him. Miss Fukua, asked us to sit around the big earth-patterned rug in our classroom. Keep your legs crossed and your hands in your laps, she instructed. But I didn't want to put my hands in my lap. I wanted to pet the animals. The lady in the tan outfit introduced herself. Hello, students of Pluto 3. I am the head zookeeper at the Below Rock County Zoo. She had the same proper way of talking as Coach Tuma. My name is... Before she could finish, I stood up and waved my hands in the air. I know who you are. You're Coach Tuma's wife. And I know that you're from Kenya because you talk the same way he does. And... Now Miss Fukua cut me off. Ruby Booker, you're a smart girl, so I know you haven't lost your manners or your mind. We don't interrupt guests, do we, class? Miss Fukua asked together. Together, everyone said, no. Sometimes I just can't help myself. I didn't mean to be rude, but I hate waiting on stuff, especially when it's right in front of me. I was dying to see what was under those cage covers. Were they lizards or badgers or bear cubs? I rocked back and forth, cracking my knuckles and tapping my toes on the floor. The zoo lady had her eyes on me. Yes, I am the coach's wife, she said. My name is Mrs. Tuma. Animals are my job. She didn't seem too upset by my blurting out. I was glad about that. She turned to the man behind her. This is my assistant today, boys and girls. His name is Earl. The man named Earl didn't say much. He just waved. Once. In a deep voice, he said, Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Even though Earl didn't have much to say, I was going to be really nice to him so that he and Mrs. Tuma would let me pet the animals. No more blurting out. I wanted to be treated special. Earl gently pulled the covers off the cages. Those are the cutest little monkeys, Lola said quietly, but I knew they weren't. I couldn't help but do what I was trying so hard to do. Those are baby orangutans! Mrs. Tuma looked pleased that I knew what was in the cages. She held one of the orangutans. Earl held the other one. They walked around our circle to let us get a closer look. Teresa was so far underneath Miss Fukua's desk that I couldn't even see her anymore. These lovely creatures are from Asia, boys and girls, Mrs. Tuma said. But the way they drank milk from their baby bottles and looked at us with their big soupy eyes, it looked like they came from a little bitty country called Cute. When Mrs. Tuma and Earl put the orangutans away and locked the cages, Teresa Petticoat joined us around the rug. Students, listen up! Mrs. Tuma has a big announcement to share, Miss Fukua said. When the room got completely quiet, Mrs. Tuma said, Next week, here at Hope Road Academy, I will be back for the annual school-wide animal trivia contest that will be held in your beautiful auditorium. I heard everything she said, but the word that came through the loudest was my favorite word, trivia! Trivia was my thing. I wanted to blurt out again, but I kept listening. Contest was another one of my favorite words, and the two together were beautiful. Trivia contest. Mrs. Tuma explained, the students who answers all of the questions correctly will win free passes to Below the Rock City Zoo for the whole year, for every student in his or her grade level. When Mrs. Tuma said that, everyone in our class went crazy. The hoots and hollers got even louder when she added, plus, the whole thing will be seen on a local TV station. But everyone groaned when Mrs. Tuma finished her announcement. The trivia contest will be for 4th through 8th graders. As 3rd graders, your job is to cheer on your fellow students. We wasted all those hoots and hollers for nothing? Now I just couldn't help it. I had to blurt out one more time. That's not fair, Mrs. Tuma. Miss Fukua, tell her I'm really good at trivia. I begged Miss Fukua to back me up. I know it, Ruby, but rules are rules, Miss Fukua said. Mrs. Tuma said, Young lady, don't worry. To be fair, we will provide take-home junior trivia booklets for kindergarten through 4th grade students, since the trivia questions are for older children. It would be unfair for students in the 3rd grade and below to compete against 7th and 8th graders, don't you think? Mrs. Tuma asked me. No way! I can beat those big old 7th and 8th graders any day. I can do it. I cried to Mrs. Tuma. Besides, junior trivia booklets are for little kids who aren't that good at trivia. I'm as good as it gets. Well, it's fine with me if you want to enter the contest, but the final decision must come from your principal. Mrs. Tuma told me. Really? I asked. I turned to Miss Fukua and said, Please, Miss Fukua, I could win this thing. I know I could. Miss Fukua pulled Mrs. Tuma to the side, and they began to talk. Slowly and quietly, my classmates began to chant. It was my girl, Teresa, who got the chanting started. Ruby, Ruby, Ruby! The other kids wanted me to represent the 3rd grade in the contest. They believed in me. They knew I could win those free zoo passes just like I won the ball tag game in the gym. I wore a smile that sparkled brighter than Miss Fukua's earrings. Miss Fukua and Mrs. Tuma came back over to our circle. Miss Fukua said, Well, Ruby, it's okay with me and it's okay with Miss Tuma. So we all have to do is convince the principal, Mrs. Cherrybomb. The class cheered. Miss Fukua said, Unfortunately, Ruby, Miss Cherrybomb is out of town. She'll be back tomorrow, though. We'll ask her then. Earl put the cloth covers back on the orangutan cages. As Mrs. Tuma waved goodbye and Earl rolled the cages out of our classroom, we all waved back. All I could think about was being on that big stage in our auditorium, looking good on TV, and winning the whole contest for the 3rd grade. This time, I would be the booker with her name in the lights. The glory would go to me, not Ty, Ro, or Marcellus, my 3 older brothers who are good at everything. Chapter 3. I didn't plan for this. We all look forward to dinner on Thursday nights. That's when Ma whips up my favorite, most delicious dish, chicken enchiladas. I love those things. To make them just right, Ma leaves early from her dance studio on 47th and Evers Street, where she gives daily lessons. We kids were all sitting around the table waiting for the food when Ty stood up and pushed his chair in. Excuse me, everybody, he said, but I have a very important piece of news to share. Just then, Ro grabbed 3 black olives from the little bowl Ma keeps on the table. One by one, Ro boinked Ty on the head with the olives. Ro said, I got a piece of news too. You need to sit down, man. Nobody cares right now. I'm starving like Marvin. Ro crunched a handful of tortilla chips into his mouth. Marcellus said, Come on, Ro, chill. Let Noodles say what they gotta say. Marcellus called Ty by his nickname Noodles. Then he popped a chip in his mouth too. Ma and Daddy came into the dining room, carrying the food and glasses of iced tea. Daddy usually misses Thursday's chicken enchiladas because he's working late in his music store, the Booker Box. I love the Booker Box. That's how I learned how to sing so well. My daddy has even been bringing home all sorts of music since I was a baby. Daddy must have heard us while he was in the kitchen. He set the food on the table and then said, Tyner has some news? Share it with us, little dude. Ma and Daddy stood by Tyner. Yeah, baby? What is it? Well, today at school, a lady from the zoo brought a couple of orangutans for us to see. But the real news is that she announced a big annual animal trivia contest for the whole school. Ty paused. But the contest is really only for 5th graders, not. Ty looked over at me. Sorry, Rube. I know how good you are at trivia, but don't worry, I'll win this thing for you. I'm going to be representing the entire 6th grade. I wasn't expecting that at all. Ty was going to be in the contest? Ma hugged Ty tight. That's my baby. Congratulations, Tyner. I know you'll do well, Ma said. I didn't even tell them that I was going to try to be in the contest. Daddy set down the plates in the center of the table so that we could each get our own chicken enchiladas. Ro beat us all. Before anyone could serve themselves, Ro's plate was spilling over with food. Ma flicked Ro on the hand with her pointer finger. Don't be so greedy, boy. Then Marcellus stood up. He had an even bigger announcement, something else I wasn't expecting either. Not so fast, little brother. Somebody has to represent 7th grade, right? I was chosen to be that guy, Marcellus said. Marcellus gave Ty the handshake that Booker men do. We call it pound a Booker. May the best Booker win. I slumped down in my chair. Usually when there was big news from anywhere in our family, I clapped and shouted like it was my big news. But this time my chin was hanging in my salsa. My eyes were full of tears, and I didn't even take a whiff of my enchilada yet. Ma came over from her chair and put her soft hands on my face. It's okay, Ruby. You'll get your chance someday. Yeah, Ladybug, Marcellus said. One thing for sure, a Booker will win this thing. Marcellus looked at his reflection in his spoon and gave us all a pretty boy smile. Ro just kept chomping his food. Slow down, Roosevelt, Daddy joked. You're gonna bust a gut. Everybody but me filled their plates and bellies with Ma's enchiladas. I just couldn't eat. I kept thinking about what Marcellus said, that a Booker would win the contest. I wanted that Booker to be me. But with Ty and Marcellus in the competition, I worried that Booker would not be me.